Brian Mulroney, former Canadian Prime Minister who forged closer ties with U.S., dies at 84. Putin warns that sending Western troops to Ukraine risks a global nuclear war. Israel-Hamas war brings back pain to Argentine Jewish community decades after major bombing attack. Today is Thursday, February 29th, 2024, and this is the Dunkley Report. International news. Former Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney has died at 84. He forged close ties with two Republican U.S. presidents through a sweeping free trade agreement that was once vilified but is now celebrated. A family spokesman said Mulroney died Thursday at a Florida hospital, where he had been treated after a recent fall. Mulroney became Prime Minister after his party's 1984 election victory that gave Canada its first Conservative majority government in 26 years. Mulroney entered the job with widespread support, but left almost a decade later with the lowest approval rating in Canadian history. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau mourned him as an extraordinary statesman who had the courage to do big things. Russian President Vladimir Putin has vowed to fulfill Moscow's goals in Ukraine and sternly warned the West against a deeper involvement in the fighting, saying that it's fraught with the risk of a global nuclear conflict. Putin's warning came in a State of the Nation address Thursday ahead of next month's election he's all but certain to win. In an apparent reference to French President Emmanuel Macron's statement earlier this week that Western ground troops deployment to Ukraine should not be ruled out. In the future, Putin said it would lead to tragic consequences. Speaking before an audience of lawmakers and officials, Putin said that it could trigger a Russian response, raising the threat of a nuclear conflict that will mean the destruction of our civilization. On October 7th, when Hamas militants stormed numerous Israeli locations, killing hundreds and abducting others, Marina Degtiar and other members of Argentina's Jewish community felt like traveling back in time to July 18, 1994. On that winter day in Buenos Aires, a bomb-laden van exploded inside the Argentine Israelite Mutual Association, killing 85 and injuring 300. 3 decades after the worst such attack in Argentina's history, relatives of the victims are still struggling to heal and share the sorrow and uncertainty of those suffering in the midst of the Israel-Hamas war. Kyiv officials say Russian forces are pushing hard against more Ukrainian towns and villages in eastern and southeastern Ukraine as Moscow tries to press its current advantage in weapons and troops. Ukraine said Thursday it has shot down 13 Russian warplanes this month, despite Russia's apparent offensive momentum on the ground. Russian forces have been bludgeoning some Ukrainian defensive positions by deploying overwhelming amounts of artillery and troop numbers in an effort to punch through defensive lines at targeted points. Russia's gains have been small, slow, and costly, but Ukraine doesn't have enough reservists and has a severe shortage of artillery shells as the supply of military aid from Western partners has waned. A bill which criminalizes LGBTQ+ people in Ghana and their supporters has drawn international condemnation after it was passed by Parliament, with the United Nations calling it profoundly disturbing and urging for it not to become law. The bill, which was voted through by Parliament in the West African nation on Wednesday, criminalizes relationships, sexual activity, and public displays of affection between members of the LGBTQ+ community. The bill has been sent to the President to be signed into law, but a Ghanaian rights group says it will continue advocating to get the bill thrown out, including by going to court. Tourist operators of a New Zealand island where a volcanic eruption killed 22 people have been ordered to pay nearly $7.8 million in fines and reparations. Those penalized in Friday's ruling were the holding company of the island's owners, a boat tour operator, and 3 companies that operated helicopter tours. White Island is the tip of an undersea volcano, also known by its indigenous Maori name, Wakaari, and it was a popular tourist destination before the eruption. There were 47 tourists and tour guides on the island when superheated steam erupted in December 2019, killing some people instantly and leaving survivors with agonizing burns. Brazil's finance minister told his peers during a G20 meeting in Sao Paulo that countries should implement a global tax on the super-rich in an effort to tackle rampant tax evasion. Fernando Haddad said Thursday that tax evasion can be resolved through international cooperation so that these few individuals make their contribution to our societies and to the planet's sustainable development. He said Brazil is pushing for a declaration on international taxation by G20 members that he hopes would be ready in July. But he acknowledged that the path would be far from smooth. A panel of UN-backed human rights experts has accused Nicaragua's government of committing serious, systematic human rights violations, tantamount to crimes against humanity. That's according to findings released Thursday from an investigation into the country's expanding crackdown on political dissent. The government of President Daniel Ortega has gone after opponents for years, but the report said repression expanded in the past year to large swaths of society, with a focus on incapacitating any kind of opposition in the long term. The state has targeted civilians, including university students, indigenous and black Nicaraguans, and members of the Catholic Church. The editor-in-chief of the renowned Russian independent newspaper Novaya Gazeta was detained and later fined 30,000 rubles, 3/29, after being accused of discrediting Russia's armed forces. The newspaper says Sergei Sokolov was detained Thursday by officers from Russia's Center for Combating Extremism. It says the charges, which are administrative and are usually punishable by a fine or a short prison sentence, are related to material posted in the outlet's Telegram channel. Sokolov took the leadership of Novaya Gazeta's newsroom in September 2023 after the previous longtime editor-in-chief, Nobel Peace Prize laureate Dmitry Muratov was named a foreign agent by Russian authorities. Thank you for joining us here at the Dunkley Report, International News. Don't forget to like and subscribe for the latest breaking news.